I'll just follow your lead and you just
Easy as
see what
that. So I think it's record. Yeah, the recording button is up there. So, okay, we will go ahead and get started. I am really excited that this was able to work into your calendar. Like I said before, we started the recording, but I will do a quick intro. Everybody, this is my good friend Jenny Hinkle. She is from Bethesda, Maryland, right?
Yeah, just north of there, but
Okay.
yes.
Olney.
Yes.
Okay, I'm still familiar with my Maryland geography, but we met at York College of Pennsylvania, where we went to school. Jenny was a very accomplished high school swimmer, and she swam at York, where I was a soccer player, so kind of had some similar athletic experiences at York, and then also certainly kind of in the sport management side. Jenny is a year older than me in school, so we kind of crossed paths a little bit in school, and then certainly, have really been able to stay in contact post graduation. But once again, thank you so much for being here, and we will get started. So first, what were kind of some of your big motivational factors in choosing sport management as a major? Obviously, York is a pretty big school. It has a lot of different options, but as you were kind of transitioning out of high school and transitioning into college, what was kind of one of the biggest factors for you in specifically choosing the sport management program at York?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me and everyone. Hello. So first, I feel like at York, just starting out and trying to find yourself in college and everything, just being a student athlete and having that kind of road cut out for me, I just feel like I really wanted to continue with loving what I love to do, like out of school. So I just feel like just loving sports, I felt like that was what I wanted to do. Being a student athlete, like Justin said, I was a swimmer. So just being involved in that was awesome. And just having the drive of being a student athlete and wanting to achieve out of the pool. So I really just tried to find something I loved. And getting into the sport management program was amazing. York offered something called practicum, and that's working all different types of jobs we had within York. So I worked some of Justin's soccer games as like a scoreboard operator, just all different types of jobs. I worked field hockey games, just something I've never been exposed to. I've worked just basketball games. It was amazing just seeing how many different jobs there were that went into a specific event. It really just opened my eyes of how many, even if you look at professional sports, how many jobs that go into like making a game. In basketball, there's so many like behind the scenes, there's ushers, there's like food stand people. It's amazing. Like there's marketing, there's sales. It's crazy how many jobs that you can do. And even just throughout my career, even the smallest job matters, to have like a big event to go on. So working practicum, it was I think it was all of freshman year we had to do. I think it was like 45 hours.
Yeah, something like that to fill everybody else in. So practicum was a course. We got academic credit for it, and in order to help the athletic department and just kind of gain some unique experience, like Jenny just talked about, one of the responsibilities, we had to do 45 total hours of more or less event management type stuff, kind of logistics work within the on-campus sporting events or different activities that the school was hosting. And I think, Jenny, one of the things that we kind of talked about during kind of the first class, or certainly kind of the first portion of my class, was one, there's a huge number of opportunities within the sport industry,
Yeah.
and people don't necessarily understand or recognize what
Yeah.
all goes into putting on just a sporting event, let alone some of the other cool stuff that you do with NBC Sports, which we'll get to in a bit. But what what was one of your big takeaways from your practicum experience, kind of your first 2 years? And I think, was it during your sophomore year that you were like was it
Yeah.
women's
So
basketball? I can't remember which program you worked with
So
specifically.
I worked within the sport communications
That's right.
office.
You were
There were different things you could have done, but
right.
I particularly wanted to learn more about like how the behind the scenes of your sport information director
Yep.
worked within that office, and that was amazing. I learned there's all these different things you can go into with your website. Um, you have to have like photo shoots and just everything that takes into, you have to work in Excel to do like a roster and put that on a website. And just the most funny thing was I had to do I was on the radio once for, I think it was actually men's and women's soccer. I did a whole game of commentating with a classmate,
Broadcasting.
and it was crazy. Just I mean, I knew soccer, but it's not like I was amazing at it. But
Right.
it was cool to have the experience of it, and just something like that. I can say I was on the radio and people listened to it.
Right.
So it was amazing. That's probably something that was awesome. Working in the sport communications office, and just knowing that there's so many areas like we just touched on that you can work in, and just all the classes too that we
Yeah.
had. Sport management was amazing with working in like sport marketing. You had a
Right.
class, sales, finance. We had to do like cold calls in class, and it was crazy to think
Yeah.
just from these classes we had all these experiences.
So which you rattled off probably 5 or 6 of the
Yeah.
classes that we took, but what was kind of your most enjoyable, or kind of like the one class that you really took a lot away from?
That I'm trying to think back. That was a long time ago for me, but I just think now that I'm in a marketing position, thinking back, I feel like sport marketing was really amazing. We had these big projects to do that included, I think it's like we had to create a whole league and manage them and kind of do their sport marketing like goals, I
Right.
think. And it was just amazing to build like a foundation, like from the ground up, and really going into how the logo would work, what the colors are. That's something we worked in sport marketing, and it kind of carried over into another class of sport PR. So that was another thing. Just
Yeah.
a lot of classes carried over, which was great.
Yeah. I think for me, as a student, and I wasn't a particularly good student at that point in my academic career. I started to actually get into more of my academics kind of with my master's degree. But anyway, I felt one of the things that really I think stood out to me about my York College sport management experience was just the um how could I describe it? Just the amount of detail that goes into being uh, a sport manager, right? Because
Yeah.
it's so easy to um, concentrate on one little tiny aspect of
Yeah.
an event or a project, but then you kind of miss everything else that goes on to it. And I think
Yeah.
the professors and instructors did a good job of like, okay, yes, it is good to be really focused, but you also have to make sure that you're you know, going through a checklist,
Yeah.
kind of in the planning phase, what are all the, A, B, and C things that need to happen. And I think for me, that really is something that I have taken away, now that I've been, kind of a working professional for 5, 6 years out of school now. Um, just the amount of planning and
Hmm.
the level of detail. So I guess
Yeah.
kind of along those lines, what were some of your big takeaways kind of overall from your academic experience? What were some of the things that you remember sitting in class and thinking like, oh, I'm never going to use that, but now you're like, they were 100% right.
I think just learning to be a professional at all times. It's just something that you never know who you're going to meet and who's going to like change your professional life. Just all like networking too, that ties into it. There's so many people through like connections. Like, oh, I know someone who went to York. Oh, you're like even a student athlete. Oh, you swam, or
Right.
just knowing people is like, I feel like the sports world is big, but it is also small in the same way. Um, just for example, I'll probably touch on later, but my current position with NBC Sports, my manager right now, she actually worked within the same professional league I had a prior job with a baseball team in Southern Maryland. She actually worked within the same league, and she kind of knew what my job was and how much work went into it. And she actually said to me, I hired you because I knew all the different types of jobs and skills you have. And it's
Right.
not just on your resume, it's just what you went through. And that was just amazing that just through that baseball job, she knew. And
Right.
it was just, it changed like everything for me.
Yep.
And it's amazing that just through that and having kind of a similar job, it can change anything for you.
Right.
And probably the best advice I got through going back to York is you really just need experience and really there's so many skills that probably people have, but you really need to stand out um, to really get a great resume. And I feel like you need experience. So, for example, I took that baseball job I mentioned earlier. I really knew just baseball like wasn't my thing. I love sports in general, but it's just not something I kind of want to work in like a professional like baseball league. And I just took it because I needed a job and just to I knew that I'll learn a lot from the baseball job.
Right.
Um, it's just something I put on like a resume, and that's something that stuck through me. Like from York, you need to have a great resume and you need experience to stand out from another candidate.
Right.
So I feel like it's just crazy where just taking this one leap of faith and taking a baseball job where I didn't want to be.
Right.
I learned so much, and through that, I have my current position. It's
Right.
amazing to think of.
Yeah, I think the networking piece certainly, and it's actually quite funny because we just did so on Thursday of this last week. We kind of touched
Mhm.
on the importance of networking and talked through kind of how LinkedIn works. Probably a quarter of my class it was somewhat familiar with LinkedIn, so
Mhm.
for a lot of them it was you know hopefully kind of a productive conversation, just kind of eye opening, like, hey, this is a good tool. But it's funny that you touched on kind of the need to find experiences and
Yeah.
just to kind of add them to your toolbox because for me and it's the same for you when you were in school. You
Yeah.
have so much going on, especially with how demanding swimming was as a sport for you,
Mhm.
where you were getting up and lifting in the mornings, doing a quick workout, off to
Yep.
class, and then, spending 2, 3 hours in the pool in the afternoon and evening.
Yeah.
There's wasn't a whole lot of time for, other things. And certainly it was the same way, with my soccer schedule and academic stuff. But, you know, going through practicum in like 45 hours during the course of a semester is tough,
Yeah.
to fit in. But now, you know, practicum wasn't my personal favorite. Like I dreaded it,
Yeah, same.
but at the same time, it really allowed me to, start to find some of the things that I was pretty good at.
Yep.
And now as a coach, I do quite a lot of those things, just kind of helping to, get the facility, the stadium ready for,
Yep.
games and different things like that. And I'm sure with your baseball experience, it was the exact same way. Um, so and you can continue to add different things into
Yeah.
your academic experience, but let's talk about your internship. So, at York, we were required to do a 400-hour internship over the course of kind of like your last academic semester at York. And personally, I actually, funny enough, did mine here at Wartburg, okay, where I'm currently working. But why don't we talk about your internship experience? What did that entail? How did you find it? And what were some big takeaways from kind of your first, professional experience out of school?
Yeah. So our final semester, I worked for ESPN 980. What I think it is, it kind of like has gone away. It was a radio station kind of near my hometown, and it covered the Washington football team. And it was really eye opening because that's kind of like my first working within an office. I actually, as an intern, I was in charge of like the front desk, answering phones, trying to welcome people into the building if they had a meeting with the general manager. So with them also so this was a big thing out of our station. We had Tony Kornheiser. He used to have a radio show out of our station, and every morning he would come in and kind of greet him and stuff. So that was kind of cool, a part of the job. But I was in charge of client services and just welcoming in people, like I said, and just working within an office and trying to get the lay of the land. Anything I could do, I addressed envelopes, just little things, and it was amazing. And just I kind of learned the ropes of how like a radio studio looks like, and I saw live uh, radio shows going on, and it was really really unique. Probably something that I probably won't work in again because it's very unique, and it's something I worked on, like not the radio side. It was not the production side. It was kind
Right.
of the office side. Um, but I think going back to your question was just really being in an office and not in a classroom, and really taking what I've learned and just trying to be professional at all times when I was on the phone or trying to help someone. And I also just really taking in like what I learned, and um, being like the best professional I can be, because no one's grading you now.
Right.
You really need to put the best foot forward, and it's all on you. You're not doing this for a grade. It's for your professional development and what you put out and how your personality is. People could like you and not hire you, and it really depends. So it was a great experience, and through that, my boss at the time, she was really great, and just networking. She knew a lot of people around the Washington D.C. area, and probably about 6 months later, probably 6 months to a year later, she left that position, and she recommended me for her job, and I ended up taking it. So just through that and through the internship process, it's networking, and I ended up getting my first full-time job from that, and it was amazing.
Yeah. I think that is certainly, kind of the progression that I have kind of been trying to, you know, talk about within my class. Like, yeah, these I these types of opportunities and these internships are so important for you to be able to finally put something, that's
Yeah.
non-academic on your resume.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes if you're wrapping up with school, you kind of have like that summer job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is some professional type experience, but it's not like that specific type of job that you're wanting to get into. And I think
Yeah.
the more, certainly with your internship experience, the, internship experience that I had, it's funny because we are each, have worked at that place where we did an internship,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny when it goes full circle like that. But
Yeah.
at what point, whether that was in, and we'll kind of use this question to kind of segue into, talking about your role at NBC Sports and kind of some of the cool things that you've been working on. But at what point did you kind of realize or identify that kind of communications, marketing, was kind of your individual route that you wanted to kind of pursue? Was it that um, practicum experience working in the SID office, sport information director, or what kind of pushed you to start pursuing that?
I think that's a really good question. I feel like I just like stumbled upon it. I
Okay.
feel like within York, we learned so much. And I feel like I definitely had like a creative mind. And I really just love to create like different promotional, like through the radio station, we had different promotions. Like
Right.
for Valentine's Day, we said like, um, call in now and through this sponsor you get like chocolates or something, so it's creating that idea and selling it to someone. I just really love to like create and just had these ideas that were cool, especially through the baseball job. I actually created the whole promotional schedule
Okay.
to get people in the stands, so you see different unique things like dollar dog nights or just other things like Grey's Anatomy night we would do like shirts and do all different kinds of like games and stuff for that. So that was pretty cool. I just feel like I really just stumbled upon it just through the creative way. And it's just really, really, you need to find like what you love and what you're good at. If you're great at talking or really selling something and you love people, being on the phone, sales is probably for you. Just it's really like who your personality is and really taking in what you learn at school and trying to run with it.
Right. Okay. So to fill everybody in, Jenny started her internship experience kind of working within radio. Her first full-time job was actually in radio. She then started to work within kind of the baseball industry, baseball league, and now, of course, you've just right your first year with NBC, right? Didn't you start
Yes,
that kind of last January, early February?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So I know when I was kind of letting the class know, where some of my, friends that I was going to have speak with us. When I told them that you worked with NBC Sports, there were certainly some people that really started to, kind of sit up in their seat a little
Nice.
bit and was like, okay, this is certainly a really, top-notch professional organization. So why don't you talk a little bit more on what a email marketing coordinator actually does? Uh,
Definitely. It is a little confusing. My actually professional route was very up and down, like Justin kind of was saying. I had actually gaps. I probably was out of work for a year. Probably you guys will learn that the sport industry is very competitive, and you just really need to be driven every single day. I was not working. I was, I really wanted to get back into it. I was doing a part-time job with building those resume builders. I was a swim coach, so I was still within and really in the sport industry, but not with like a professional team, what I wanted to do. So it's very up and down, and you need to just continue to drive. That's what I learned. And perseverance is amazing thing to have. So what I actually do now is with NBC Sports. I've been there over a year now, and it's really cool. So email marketing. I sent Justin an example, so maybe you can pull it up a little later. So I run 6 regions of our sports. So we have regions within Boston, Philly, DC, Chicago, Northwest, like Portland area, and then Bay Area, California. So I run 6 of those. We have something that has, it's called a daily access. So I send every weekday at a certain time, I design and create emails that our reader would want to learn about their region. Say there was a Caps game just yesterday, I do kind of articles about them. I look up articles and I see what can be incorporated into an email that someone would want to read. So for example, I really just dig deep and try to go into these emails, make them interactive. We have schedules, I create them, and we have something called Salesforce is a big email program we use. So through my baseball experience, I really took that, and I actually sent emails through the baseball team, and through that I kind of, my boss now, she said, I know what you do, like I stated earlier. And it's amazing how skills from a previous job can go into another job, and you just continue to learn. It is amazing.
So
also we're doing promoting each individual sport. So there's a Warriors game in Bay Area. We do, I work hand in hand with someone who lives in the Bay Area. So I communicate with them and say, hey, do you have like a cool graphic that I can put into an email? And that's kind of like an email that tunes in to the game. So it's kind of like engaging with our fans within each region to try to make them watch and tune in.
Okay.
So
why don't I actually have that email that you sent
awesome.
pulled up. So I'm going to share my screen.
Awesome.
And then that way you can kind of look through or kind of talk through what
Definitely.
actually some of your graphics kind of look like. So
this is an example that I did, I think on Friday, February 4th, Thursday or Friday. And so this big image right here is called a hero. And this is kind of an eye-popping article I picked that would make someone click on it. And then down below is kind of the sub articles. I incorporate just something about, I feel, getting to know the region too. Just New England in general just loves Tom Brady, even though he's not in Boston anymore. So just incorporating that. We have a little banner in the middle.
And this is just kind of like through a sponsor?
Yes.
Or,
so
okay.
It's through a sponsor. It's just anything that we can, and all these images are linked. So I have to make sure the image is created, and then I link each image to that sport article.
Okay.
So there's different articles about each region, and just something to create eye-catching, and just you see the different colors and everything. Those are actually coordinated with each team within the region.
Okay.
and just working through this schedule. I actually work within Excel, and that is all created through Excel and pulled within another program that I learned. And it's amazing. There's a lot of, it seems really simple, but there's a lot of work that goes into these emails, and it's just something I didn't think of before I had this position.
Right.
And if you get different emails from like sponsors that are cool, like graphics and stuff, like someone made that. And it's really cool to think about now that I'm like on the other side.
Right. So why don't how exactly does one get on that specific email list? Is that something where, you have a website that captures emails and that's how you create your list? Or is that kind of predetermined through, somebody who is a, Peacock subscriber that, submitted their email address into that web streaming service, and that those are the people that you target within kind of your email, campaigns, or like how exactly does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have our NBC Sports website,
Okay.
and there's actually a different email that my boss creates, and that's like even more detailed. So there's another example of an email that she does, and it's very more layered. So these are just for the sport regions, and it's like if you're a Boston fan and you want more Boston news, then you sign up on the NBC Sports Boston website. There's something at the footer that you can say, hey, I'm a Boston fan. I want to sign up, and then you just enter your email. Or if you want to know like news about the Portland Trailblazers, you sign up on NBC Sports Northwest. So there's different ways. And right now, NBC Sports, we're really trying to incorporate cross brand. So that means we're really trying to work with Peacock and trying to get their banners in our emails that you saw, for example. They're just really new right now, and we're really just trying to cross brand and communicate with whoever works with them. NBC Sports is actually a really big company, which just something you don't think about. I think there's over 3,000 people that work within my building. And it's just amazing how many jobs there are. And there's half of them of the side is production. So there's TV, there's camera, there's so many different things. And then on the other side, it's admin. So there's all these different types of jobs and levels of jobs. It's really amazing how what you learn in school, and there's a lot out there, and you just need to really find what you love.
Right. So, of course, COVID has affected a lot of things within the sport
Yes.
industry.
Yeah.
How exactly has, COVID and the pandemic, really kind of everything over the last 12 months, um, how has that kind of affected, you know, what you do kind of on a daily or weekly basis? Has there kind of been almost more opportunities, in terms of different creative things to engage, consumers, since, people aren't necessarily going out and attending live sporting events,
Right.
but certainly, sporting events are happening, and, some of the things that you do are directly correlated with those types of events. So how has kind of COVID, the year of COVID, kind of affected what you do?
Realistically, probably not so much it's affected it, but just probably physically being in the office. I feel like everyone, you guys not being in class physically, everyone's online now. I think that's a given, and just not physically being in the office, interacting, and kind of even me learning a different skill. I need help on a certain program. I have to kind of call up my boss on Zoom and be like, hey, I really am having trouble. There's a different way of, you have to communicate if you need help. So I feel like that way COVID has affected it, like probably everyone in the world. You have to adjust. And the sports world, there for a couple months there wasn't, anything happening. So I feel like it was a little hard with content that was available with like, what do I put in the emails? There's not really much, but you just have to get creative and really try to, put in another article or something cool in there. But yeah, that's the only bit has affected it is just the content.
Okay.
And yeah, just like everything came to a stop last year, almost a year ago.
Right.
And just yeah, just that way. And hopefully soon we can get back to in person, but
Yeah.
might be a while.
So how excited were you to be able to kind of have DC as one of your geographic regions? Jenny's a huge
Yeah,
Washington Caps fan,
I am.
NHL hockey, but what are you excited to work within kind of DC sports, kind of something that's obviously close to home with you being from, not too far away from DC.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Just when I communicate with the Washington office, just knowing that I already prior know that there's going to be a game this Monday about like a, Caps or Wizards game. Just knowing that information and being a super fan is great to know, because then you're not, saying, oh, I think there's something this week. It's like I already know. And also through my career, I actually worked for the Capitals for a little bit. I also had part-time jobs when I didn't have a full-time job. So that's something that is really something to think about. You never want to like stop working completely unless there's like an emergency or something. But just trying to keep your foot in the door is another piece of advice that I just remembered from York. Keep your foot in the door. Don't like completely, stop working in sports if you don't want to.
Right.
So I worked part time for the Wizards first, right after college, actually. And then something came about. I got the full time job with the radio station. And then after that, I still worked with the Wizards after I was done with the radio station. So it's just always keep your foot in the door. And I knew I wanted kind of to work for Monumental Sports, which is the DC ownership of the Wizards and Caps. So just having that knowledge is great. And it's
Yeah.
amazing.
So one of the questions um, that one of my students posted on our Google sheet was um, or has your experience at NBC Sports kind of lived up to your expectations going into it? Like, did you have kind of a pretty clear picture on what you wanted your experience to look like? And now that you're, 12 months removed, how has your experience been within NBC Sports?
Yeah, actually, starting a year ago, I was terrified of starting at like a huge company. Truthfully, it was super scary. Living somewhere I didn't know anyone, just moving up to Stamford, Connecticut. It was about probably 4.5 hours away from my hometown. York was only about an hour and a half away. So it's very like something I didn't know. It was very eye opening because just living on your own, knowing no one in the city, and it's just very interesting trying to learn a job and learning things that I wasn't confident in, but getting into the job and meeting people and just really being confident in my skills and just really running with it. And it was amazing. I was only actually in Connecticut 10 weeks before COVID hit and then the office closed. Probably everyone can remember like where they were that last day they were had a normal life back in January, and just everything stops, and then now you have to transfer over to digital. I feel like I said in the question about how is COVID affected, it's definitely affected where you can't be in person. And I feel like that has had probably a negative effect with not being like in person and being, social and everything. And that's probably hurt a little bit because there are like certain clubs that you can be in. There's something called the Young Professional Club that NBC has. There's a women's network. There's all these different types of clubs that NBC has, so which is awesome to be a part of. So they do like digital kind of meetings. They were connected to the NBC Today show. So we've had like guest speakers come on. Typically they would be in person. I remember the last in-person group that was available, I saw Carrie Underwood speak because she is the Sunday Night Football, I guess, song person. So she sings the Sunday Night Football song. So she came in and spoke, and that was amazing to like see her in the flesh. So that's a positive thing that we have. All these clubs that got canceled and you can't go in person and see these cool people. So maybe, whenever everything's safe, that we can have these clubs again and have a real like family. I feel like NBC Sports is a real family, and it's amazing. Hopefully, whenever that goes back to normal, I can have that.
It's it's really interesting. So I have another friend that has worked in Google,
Nice.
or worked with Google in some capacity. And even though those organizations are like massive,
Yeah.
there's thousands upon thousands of people that work on, any given campus,
Yep.
they have also said the same thing that you just touched on, which
Yeah.
is, it's such a tight knit community. It's
It
such
is.
a, positive vibe within the halls, within the, office complexes. And I think that is one of the, now that I'm thinking on it, one of the other things that really stood out to me within, kind of the York, class experience was,
Yeah.
just the relationships that you have with,
Mm-hmm.
the people that you're working with, the people that you're working, under, or the people that are working for you directly, is it it's so massively important to, take care of those people and really, have a strong relationship with them. Because, like you touched on before, your current supervisor had almost identical job to what you did within your, Maryland, Southern Maryland Blue Crabs work
Yep.
experience, and that direct, parallel with somebody else's experience,
Yeah.
really allowed you to, jump through the door rather than trying to, break the door
Yep.
down and, really get into a top-notch organization. So I'm glad you kind of touched on, just kind of the overall, feeling that you have working for a massive, massive sport broadcasting, sport communications type company. Um, I guess that allows us to kind of transition into kind of that third part. So now that you are a very experienced sport manager, we'll say, what are some of the things that you would like to reinforce that, maybe we've already talked about? That's totally fine if you want to revisit some things. Something that you'd like to reinforce, or what is something that you would like kind of the next group of sport managers coming through their education experience? What are some of the important things that they should know as they kind of exiting their academic experience
Yeah.
and then entering their professional experience?
Yeah, definitely. There's probably a lot, but I'll probably keep it to a couple things. Um, like I said, there's just, be professional. I said before with you never know who you're going to meet. You could get, be at a job and kind of talk with someone, small talk, and that person could be a big director at a marketing team. Like you never know. And so that's one, just be professional at all times and really network, which is a great thing. Everyone knows someone. And probably three is continue to develop your skills, continue to develop your resume, really build it into what you want to have a professional career as, no matter, what type of job it is. Just keep yourself in the sport industry if you want to. Have that other thing, like we stated before, on your resume that's not a school related thing.
Right.
Yeah, just those probably are the top couple that I can think of. And just really do what you love. If you're miserable in, a job, there's other things out there that you can do. If you really aren't feeling like a certain area of sports, then really try something else. Right now, I've had colleagues and friends that don't have jobs right now just because of the state of the sport industry. A lot of stadiums are closed, so a lot of them lost their jobs because they're kind of like game day staff, or the company no longer needs them because they're
Right.
just the state of the world right now. So I feel like it is going to get better and people are going to, get back on, having jobs. But, you just got to keep being determined and know what you want and really just communicate with like an employer and just really try to have that drive and go for the stars and everything you need.
Yeah. Yeah. I think certainly, I think everybody certainly, kind of has a, you know, personal experience with, just kind of like the negativity of COVID,
Yeah.
and, with the job market. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately, thankfully we're climbing through things and hopefully getting closer to being, fully back to,
Yeah.
kind of old normal, or at least new normal, where,
Definitely.
things aren't people aren't going to be as struggling as bad as they, have been kind of over the last 6 months or so. um I am switching over to my Google sheet, to yeah, I mean, shoot, we've been talking an hour almost, which
Yeah,
is
I
great.
love questions. So
Yeah.
anything I
So
didn't answer, I'm sorry. I just sometimes ramble. I
you
just really want you guys to, understand, and the sport industry is amazing to be in. And
yeah
any questions that, you guys have.
so we touched on some of these, but and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What has been the biggest challenge you've gone through, um, in your professional, experience, 6, 7 years out of school now? But what was that challenge for you?
Um, like while I had a job, or like when I was in a job, just
Anything and
anything.
everything. Open.
Um, let's see, probably when one that just sticks out when I wasn't employed, just trying to keep my positivity and really trying to network and remember all those people I've met and hit up, an email and be like, hey, just more professional than this, but like, hey, I'm, looking for a job and, do you know anyone? Or I saw this job posted on, we use something called Teamwork Online.
Yep.
That's where all these jobs are posted, and just something I was literally on all the time when I
Every
did
day.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day. It's really amazing. That or LinkedIn, like we stated before,
Right.
is amazing to get on. And it's probably another challenge is when I worked for the baseball team is these, even when I worked with the radio station, we had very long game days. I would wake up, super early for a 1 p.m. game, even baseball or football. I would have to wake up super early, get there at like 8 a.m., be awake and professional, and just hit the ground running and know what I have to do to get, have clients to experience a great time at a game. You can't be grumpy. You can't, have a bad personality, because you're showing like you're working for an organization, and you have to be having like a great outlook on it. And just it's not really a challenge of long days, but you kind of have to expect it when you work in the sport industry.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, definitely some long days working within sports. So this is an interesting question, and I
Yeah.
don't think you and I have kind of talked about this at all. But we have a handful of kids that are wanting to get into coaching. Whether
Nice.
that's kind of their specific sport.
Yeah.
I know basketball is a pretty popular one within the class. Um, but this question, is this where you thought you were going to be as a professional, back in school, or were you wanting to pursue coaching, with your swimming background?
That's really a great question. I had like a summer job in college, which was a coach. I just really loved it, and I continued it actually 5 years after, like after college. So five
Right.
years after, I was continuing coaching, and I actually got the radio full-time job, and I was still coaching. So I'd go 8 hours a day, and then I would go to practice, and I would coach for I think like 4 hours. I think it was sometimes, but I just loved coaching, just being especially with younger kids who love the sport, and I wanted to continue that. I really just, something, I took an opportunity. I really just found myself envisioned working for a professional team or organization.
Right.
I just really envisioned myself having that for some reason. That was kind of the top goal. And I kind of just had to, stop coaching because I wanted to reach that next goal. I know coaching is always there. So I could go back when I'm retired, or, I don't want to do this anymore or something,
Right.
but I know it's always there. And I know I love my sport so much, but it's just something I needed to do. And I miss it a lot, but I know I'm growing my professional career where I want it to go.
Right.
And it's just something I had to do.
That's awesome.
I mean, if you love coaching, go for it. It's amazing. And um, really just find what, team you want to coach for and where you want to coach, because there's great people out there that, have that job.
Yep. And this will be I just quickly read through all the questions, and we
Yeah.
really touched on all aspects. But just to kind of recap, what are some of the, kind of unique skills associated with your current position within kind of the marketing? Before we started recording this, we were kind of talking about your tech savvy
Yeah.
wizard skills
Mm-hmm.
within some of the different programs and tech stuff. But any other really unique skills that you've kind of really found or discovered that you really needed to sharpen in order to be really successful within this marketing role with NBC Sports?
I think the one that just jumps out is being detailed oriented. very being looking at an email, you have to make sure everything is spelled correctly. It looks good. So even like a slight, like if it slightly like out of center, like you have to make sure everything is perfect, because these emails go out to, I think our top list is like 70,000 people
Wow.
that I send these out to. My boss actually sends the, I guess the other email is 1.5 million people that these emails go to. I just have to pinch myself and be like, people are actually reading this and it has to be perfect.
Yeah.
Um, I make the subject lines. So making sure, you know, if it's, spelled correctly, if, TH, like the is spelled right, even if it's like anything, just
Yeah.
has to be perfect. Detail oriented is even that fine tooth and comb, you have to go through it. Before
Right.
these emails, I check it 10 times to make sure everything's good. And yeah, just because 70,000 people look at this, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. And that's probably the top thing that sticks out at me. And
Okay.
yeah,
I'm chuckling because I with Front Rush, the
yeah,
recruiting software that we use as a coaching staff, I'll send emails out to 300 kids, and it takes me literally probably an hour and a half just to,
yeah,
verify all the different options. So I couldn't even imagine how long it would take me to send an email to 70,000 people, and I'd be afraid to
yeah.
send. I'd have to have somebody else click send.
It
But
is nerve wracking. I do get that little anxiety, like even though it looks great and someone else did check it too, but I just get anxiety. Like
yeah,
whenever I hit send, I'm like, I don't know if this is okay, but I checked it 10 times.
yeah.
So um,
Oh wow.
yeah, it is nerve wracking to hit send. I do agree.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Jenny,
Yeah,
I'm psyched this was able to work into your schedule. Always love catching up with you and visiting,
definitely.
kind of talking sports and work with you. So I am going to stop the recording.
Okay.
That will conclude the recorded version of the interview. So once again, thank you again.